everyone. Welcome along to the program. I'm Chamberlain Uso.
It's the 1st of April, right? And also a beautiful Thursday morning.
Oh.
Just giving you heads up.
Let me confirm that. Oh, that's true.
Okay, that's true.
It's April 1.
It's the first.
So that's heads up for you.
And it's Good Friday tomorrow. Just so you know.
Oh, it's 1st of April.
Am I back in? Good morning and welcome.
Why didn't I remember?
Oh, well.
April Fool's Day.
You know you are very busy.
Oh, damn. I wonder what Mr. and Mrs. How would they capture that? April Fool's joke there or something?
Well, I'm pretty sure we'll get to that.
Okay. It used to be serious those days. Seriously unserious April Fool jokes, but these days you have to be very careful.
No, don't mess with people.
How you come up with some April Fool jokes, because before you know what's happening, they could go for your jugular, given the circumstances.
Oh, yes.
Given the circumstances.
The times that we're in these days,
especially.
So, but really, I mean, all of that notwithstanding, you know what they say about you take it all in, relaxing, how it's melting to the bones, and we're so much in a rat race in this part of the world. I mean, someone said, you guys in Lagos, you're always in a hurry, but you never get there. You guys are always in a hurry
We do. It might take a while.
Everybody's always in a hurry.
I think it's just what it is. It's the Lagos spirit.
Well, I think where Chamberlain is coming from is the fun part. Having fun, at least laugh a little. Yeah. Life is, as you said, a rat race, but definitely scientists tell us, or medical practitioners tell us, you spend more muscles frowning than you do smiling.
Wow.
So, and consequently, you age more for frowning and look younger when you smile.
For doctors, some of them are frowning today.
Oh, yes.
Because it's this day that they intend to down tools the resident doctors, so who knows, they'll use more muscles there then.
And for the patients as well.
Oh, yeah.
Who
So
go to the hospital.
imagine.
I mean, sicknesses don't take a break. They come at the oddest times. Imagine you having to rush to the hospital at midnight, and the resident doctor who's meant to attend to you is on strike as a result of the reasons they have laid out. So clearly, you can't smile at that time. It could be your child, it could be you. And it's not April Fool's joke, it's real. I know they had a meeting with the Ministry of Labour. We'll see how the papers reflect that really this morning.
One other thing, my apologies, Chamberlain, that is definitely not funny, is that we spent 1.8 trillion naira importing food in this country every year. Food.
Importing food.
That's agriculture. Agriculture, Chamberlain. Coyote.
But to be honest, some people are smiling to the bank as a result of that.
Yeah,
it's thriving because it's business for some people.
It is.
And they're making huge profit of it.
What is worrisome about it is, come on, for God's sake, guys, it's 1.8 trillion naira investment. Now, on the one hand, are the people who import these things, most certainly Nigerians themselves. On the other hand, is the value chain that we have lost. You and I, we have had these conversations about food processing in this country. It is one of the shortfalls, the downer, so to speak, according to the Standards Organization of Nigeria and the NEPC, Export Council, that we can't process for export, and that's a downer.
Well, we've got Eni Akinshola joining us this morning. He's been on both sides in terms of media and government, in terms of the information angle of both areas. Good morning, Mr. Akinshola. Thank you for joining us today. Can you hear us, by the way? Oh, okay. All right. We're going to go ahead then, but hopefully see how that goes. Well, we're starting off with Nigerian Tribune with the dailies here today. Anambra 2021. Gunmen attacked Soludo, kill 3 police aides, whisk away commissioner. Bandits kill 8 in renewed attacks in Kaduna. 3 policemen killed, 4 others missing in Akwa Ibom Cold War. Wow, what is going on these days? Well, you thought that it was just going to be a campaign because elections are this year, by the way. And then gunmen killing 3 police aides and whisking away commissioner. Well,
don't forget that just how many days ago we were talking about the connection between electoral violence and insecurity. How that during elections, there seems to be a spike in security challenges. This is just perhaps an indication of that. For God's sake, we haven't heard of serious security breaches in the Southeast for a while. And now this.
I think it's also interesting because there have been major insecurity issues in the Southeast, maybe unrelated to this. I mean, we had the one in Ebonyi State just recently where we saw that gruesome killing of several people, very sad one. But this is election related. I mean, we're counting down November the 6th, and this is an election you thought, okay, off season. So, I mean, it will have a spirit of its own. There will be a lot of attention on that election, a lot of hands, boots on ground, security-wise, political-wise. And it's just how many months to it? Barely 9 months or thereabouts. And we've seen 3 killings already. You wonder what the days ahead hold.
I think the concern here, well, I mean, you're right. It's not that there is absolutely no part of the country that doesn't have its security challenges, but not at the scale that we here have in the northwest, in the northeast, even in the southwest. So that's what I meant when I made that. And then now this. Now it would seem like this is just something latent. The insecurity is kind of latent everywhere, just waiting for a spike. And now to attack, just as you said, police aides, policemen.
Well, who knows? They know what to do in terms of the investigation to find out what really went wrong. And then just beneath that one, you see 70% of farmers in Ibarapa, Okeogun have abandoned their farms, as described to Alaafin. Accuses security agents of releasing suspected criminals. 81 monarchs reject proposed ranching for herdsmen in Ekiti. So, there you go. If you're ready, they are accusing security agents of releasing suspected criminals. You know, this is going to, generate a lot more. UCH patients grapple with water scarcity, reduction in surgeries. Wow, how did we get here? Remember, once upon a time, it was comparable to the best in the world.
It was the best.
And now you see this. So you just wonder, where are we headed? Where are we headed with these things?
It's understandable sometimes if it's a power challenge, but water, which is like fundamental. Oh dear.
There you go. That's what it is.
Well, let's take a look at the front page of the Guardian newspaper for you, which leads with this story. It's health related, interestingly. Shortage of COVID-19 vaccine sparks fears of fakery hoarding.
Wow.
So that's something to digest this morning. See the writers, FG yet to send supplementary budget for COVID-19 expenses. Nigeria plans to get 70 million Johnson & Johnson vaccines through AU. Question is, what is the timeline? And don't forget, I don't think you can take the first jab of AstraZeneca and take a second jab of Johnson & Johnson.
That's
I don't think
exactly
it works.
what just came to my mind.
Oh, really?
Is that what you're planning to do?
Come on. How do you, I mean, because it's not like the generic paracetamol, you can take one and take the second one. No. The vaccines seem to have a parallel, life of their own.
So let me see if I can answer that question with this next rider. Second batch of AstraZeneca may arrive August. So, wait a minute.
It's supposed to be 3 months in between jabs, isn't it?
So I think the only logical thing, I think, will be to just keep it at 2 million. So you have enough to give them a second jab in the next 12 weeks.
Since another consignment is coming in.
But that will be in August. August is how many months? 4 months? Or thereabouts from now.
But will they do that?
But you know what? We don't do the decisions here. I mean, so let us know what you think about that. Another writer, UK fines Oyakilome's TV station 65 million naira over COVID-19 sermon. That story makes front page news, starts on the front page, continues on page 12. And you know that story. British envoy laments Nigeria's worsening insecurity. The military delaying supplementary budget for weapons procurement, says Minister Osinbajo presides over FEC in Buhari's absence. So those are the two major stories right there on the front page. But this one, gunmen attack Soludo, kill 3 policemen. That one is on page 4. I think I recall, was it the commissioner speaking about a certain commissioner that was taken away? But you know what, find more details on page 4 of The Guardian this morning. There's something for you, sports. Squirrels given Iwobi's treatment as CAF moves tie with Sierra Leone to June. That one is on page 31. You wonder what that one is about. It's in The Guardian for you.
The Vanguard newspaper is talking about insecurity, but here is the angle. Nigeria struggling, needs help. Ascribed to UK envoy. And the story is on page 8. It says UK government ready to help because your insecurity is our insecurity. Yeah.
What? What?
Says UK government ready to help because your insecurity is our insecurity.
Really?
You heard it the second time. Yeah, really. At least that's what the paper says.
I wonder what that means.
Afenifere Ohaneze, NEF, MBF, others back UK. And I'm just wondering, okay, so what exactly does that mean? Maybe the details are on page 8. Yeah. It will give you some understanding.
But it's only fair to, understand that when you have business interests, when you have economic interests and stuff, it's a no-brainer. Whatever affects that country will definitely affect your interests.
Is there any country in the world that is not struggling? Even the UK?
Absolutely, especially now that it's COVID-19 and so.
Okay.
Oh dear.
Anyway, so that's what you have on the front page. And worsening Akpakpa gridlock, motorists seek military's intervention.
Are you changing the name just like that?
No, that's the way it's pronounced. Akpakpa, not Akpakpa.
Confuse people. Let them come on
really?
it now.
Yes. Yes.
Well, we'll move away from then.
I thought it was.
We'll call it. They've been calling it their own name ever since.
Badagry was Agbadarigi. Yes, just that's some history for you guys.
Okay, so you shouldn't call it Badagry anymore.
Those days, bro. Those days.
I don't want you to call it Badagry anymore. You have to stick to.
Very soon we're back again. Come on, man. Come on.
Well, that's the way it is, really, guys. I mean, okay, for instance, there's this language, we call it Egun for many years.
Yeah.
It's not Egun, it's Ogu. Okay, yes. I'm just
taking us to school this morning. History classes.
Let's leave all of that. Okay, more stories, so many on the front page right there. Mr. and Mrs. And Mr. is walking away with his back to Mrs. who is following. And he says, I'm the minister. Yet in a short time, my wife bought clothes worth 10 million naira and a fat bank account. It's difficult to know that the president appointed me and not you. And the wife responds, democracy is for everybody, especially its dividends.
Okay. So that's dividend.
Okay. Nice. Well, the back page, of course, has sports. Lagos, Adia Lagos. Eagles endorse Lagos for home games. Details on the inside pages. AFCON qualifiers, Osimhen emerges top scorer. And you might like this. Messi's move to Man City off.
Yeah. It was always off, really.
Oh. Well, what about Haaland? Is Haaland going to move to City?
I think that's more feasible than Messi, really.
I hear it's going to cost them about, what, 300 million pounds?
They've got it.
Wow. Well, what's financial fair play rule anyway these days? If they change it, so might as well go ahead. You know what they say? Buy the league. Yeah.
Mark,
Well, I don't know. I'm not supposed to be doing this alone, and I think you guys are not supposed to be doing this alone as well. We have in the studio with us right now Mr. Eni Akinshola, who is a former Commissioner for Information in, beg your pardon, former Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Ondo State in Ondo, is a former right now. And we are supposed to be doing paper review together. You guys have already started, and you seem to be enjoying yourself and getting lectures from Ayo, who is trying to tell you about how my own hometown is supposed to be pronounced.
God bless you. I was going to go
I take
there.
strong exception to that. If you want to know the real pronunciation from the people, ask us.
Yeah.
Okay. It was one of you that told us so. And that was back in time, so. But then, you know.
That's third-party information. That's third-party information as far as this is concerned right now.
That's short of fake news, right?
Yes. Be careful.
No, well, not necessarily fake news, but he's just showing off, and I'm not happy about that. But let's quickly get to Daily Trust now and see what our guest has to say about, what the front pages are saying. I have to thank you for showing up this morning. Look at what Daily Trust is saying on the front page. Military yet to submit estimate for arms. That's according to the federal government. Defense officials mum. They're being careful. That's according to an expert. 396 billion naira supplementary budget for COVID-19 ready. Government holds proposed healthcare centers in states. So they seem to be tying the stories around security to COVID-19 vaccine as well. Like maybe they're all different types of security, aren't they? But military yet to submit estimates for arms. That's according to the federal government. So maybe that's why the Senate turned down their loan request. What do you make of this?
I think I read their UK saying that we are struggling. I say we are tottering on the precipice. And I pray that those in authority quickly come to terms with that reality. If we are in a pandemic on one side and insecurity issues are as high as they are across the nation, and the military, who are the forefront of tackling security, are not prepared, or we are not prepared because they are not prepared, then we are in some sort of quandary. We are in some sort of, I don't want to use that language, but things are not as good as they should be.
We have been torturing for a while now. There's an entire book written, Nigeria on the Brink. I think that's by Kalmira. So he wrote that book some time back. And it would seem that maybe because we have always pulled back from the brink somewhat, we're beginning to take it for granted. Do you think that this time around,
if we make dancing on the brinks our policy, our strategic policy, then that means we are not serious. We should make not ever getting to the brinks our policy, not ever getting near that dangerous part where we could think over and boom, it's gone. And the indices all across are that things could burst anytime. You see that somebody says you are going to fall 2 steps away and you keep on staying on, does not mean that you won't fall if you're not careful. So we should prepare. We should never be at that stage where people will think we'll fall again. By now, we should be stabilized as an economy. We should be stabilized as a polity so that our development could be programmed, could be scaled. We'll know that in years, so this is where we'll be. What are programs for education? What are programs for health? What are programs for space? What are programs for climate change? Those are things that serious nations are concerned with, but we are concerned with the basics. And that's still very, very sad.
Oh, well, that's what you find on the front page of Daily Trust this morning. I'm trying to see if we can quickly get another one that hasn't been reviewed just yet. Vanguard has this one. Oh, well, that's what you saw earlier. Insecurity, Nigeria struggling, needs help. That's according to UK Envoy.
It's an understatement, but we've lived with it, and we'll continue to pray that we'll live through it and come out of it better. But the instances are just not healthy.
But look at this, Ebonyi massacre. Fight back with vigilantes. Umahi orders local government chairman. I don't know if you saw that video of the governor of Ebonyi State visiting the site where this murders occurred.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you listened to his statement, because his statement, clearly spells that was a revenge mission. He said that the local herdsmen who they had compensated in the past and made peace with after 2 of them had been killed, left the village mysteriously a day or 2 before the attacks occurred, meaning that they were aware that such an attack was going to happen. What do you make of this now when he says he's telling local government chairman to fight with vigilantes?
Sometimes it could be confusing. I mean, where do we start from? He said there was an attack, life was lost, those people moved away, now there's a reprisal. The fact that there was an attack in the first place is a problem. And are we addressing the fundamentals, the causative reason for the first attack? Have we addressed it? No, definitely no. The herdsmen who are foraging on farmlands, it should not happen. These are 2 businesses. They should not clash, but they are clashing repeatedly all across the country. Farmers have the fear that you plant and you can't reap. You can't harvest. Herders also want to feed their animals. It can't work if the interest of one overlaps over the interest of the other. And that is what we are living with. If the farmer in Ebonyi on their farmland cannot feel secure to farm and expect their harvest at the end of each planting season, there is a problem. The problem that is psychological, a problem that is also of security in nature. He is afraid every day, what will my family eat? And he's afraid, and what fear does is to bring precipitate action. Fear triggers in you things that you should not ordinarily do. So he gets armed, prepared for the wars. If I don't want to become an infidel. I don't want to fail from feeding my family. So let me die doing it. And it's a desperate reality. But we are not addressing these realities. We are not tackling these issues. We should tackle them. If government is going to ask herders to ranch their animals, do so. Let the laws be strict. If you want land, and I've said it before, if you want land to herd your animal, you buy the land. If government is concerned, government could buy the land. Buy, not force take, not claim other people's land. Legitimately seek the consent of landowners under terms and agreements that are seen as okay. And then buy, let the herders stay there, and let them be restricted to what they are doing, economic realities. If you are on my land, for instance, and I had these are the problems, and you come to my land, in 2-3 years, you install an Oba on my land. The Oba has no relationship with my own Oba. He becomes an authority within my territory. That cannot work. Those are facts that are germinating, creating these problems, and we're not addressing them.
Let's flip this to Lagos now. I'm sure they have more papers for you, gentlemen.
Well, yes, and they take a look at blueprints next now. Nigerian elders warn, we can't afford another civil war. Ask Buhari to ignore empty assurances from security chiefs. Seek federal character in appointments. Urge national dialogue. Without state police, state governments will remain puppets under FG, as ascribed to Alafin. So this is not, I mean, the writers may not be new, but what do you make of this lead story?
We can't afford another civil war. The next civil war won't be fought between one part of this country and another part. If anybody thinks that is what will happen, no. It will be fought by warlords in different locations for territories, for survival. It will be fought not Igbo against Fulani, Yoruba against Hausa, or other sorts. No. It will be fought in pockets of locations across the country. Because obviously you have warlords as we speak. You have people who command parts of states, command parts of local government who are not the legitimate authorities in those places. The next war won't see them move to their countryside. No, they will fight where they are, and we won't come out of it. But you see, all those recommendations, the writers are clear. They point to the fact that we need constitutional review, constitutional restructure, whatever name it is called. This country needs to dialogue. We need to reconstitute the Leviathan. We need to reshape our document of association. We need to re-agree on how to move forward. There is distrust, there is fear, there is feeling of oppression, of cheating, of marginalization. There is feeling of my thief is better than your thief. So when your thief is stealing, you support him. And when my thief steals, you victimize him. Such feelings do not bring nation building, do not support nation sustenance until we sit down and talk. And people say, we've been talking. No, we've not done the fundamental talking. And when we've had the opportunity to talk, the fine points that have been recommended were never implemented. So it's a situation that I have said this, and this is one part I've heard on since I could remember, that we need to reconstitute. Some call it restructuring, some call it constitutional change, but we must restructure. We must reconfigure our confidence in ourselves and in our country.
We'll talk a little bit more about this when we return in a moment. Don't go away. All right, welcome back. Well, Mr. Akoshola, what do you think about those who say, yes, the headlines, the leaders may keep saying, well, we can't afford some of these things, but do their actions, are they commensurate, in terms of maybe saying, are they putting their money where their mouth is, basically?
I've said that before, that we keep repeating these same rhetorics, but we need to put action. We need to really act on them. If we say, let us sit down and talk, when are we going to talk? For instance, this hardest farmer thing has been on for how many? For years or ages. It's been on in the Middle Belt for ages, but we were all silent about it because it was far away from the center of things. Now it's on our doorsteps across the country, and that's why we are bringing it up. The earlier we talked about it, the earlier we resolved these things. And I say it is not about hardest farmers alone. It's about other things that could trigger insecurity, other things that are, in a way, sustaining fear in the hearts of citizens, other things that have removed ownership in the future of the country. Few people believe in the country. Few people believe in the continuity of the country. So everybody wants to take his own part of what is available. And if the country bursts at the seams, so be it. That is the prevailing reason. And it can't be like that. You must have hope in your country. You must believe in its future. And until it gives you back that feeling that you are one of us, such will not happen. So we need to talk about it. But we need to act more about it.
Give us the benefit of hindsight. I mean, while you were in government and the several government officials you interacted with in different parts of the country, did you get a sense in terms of their thinking that, okay, well, maybe they could be on the same page saying, well, we actually do need to restructure?
I'll be fair with you. A lot of people think so. But there are fears of breaking primordial sentiments and barriers. Nobody wants to be seen as selling out of what their tribe, of what their nation have seen as their fundamental principle and directive, objective of their enclave or clan. My people believe this way. So I don't want to be seen as opposing what my people believe. As very as it was, as I was in government, we organized several engagements across this country on these things. We were in Ibadan more than 2-3 times. We did it in Akure. We went to Enugu. We went to the Middle Belt to talk about these things. That the earlier, and I'm talking of 6-7 years ago, the records are there. What my principal did in conjunction with other things, that these, we must talk and act about these things. They are elementary things. For instance, issue of state police, you could take it out, act on it now. Issue of farmers' herders clash, you could take it out on it, act on it while we are thinking of when to talk, while we are institutionalizing the talking process and the acting process. But more and more, we move further from coming together to talk about it. People are digging into their enclave. I'll tell you one small thing. It may be a little bit tangential. There's a place called Fedra in Akure. They produce the best of Gari in Akure. Now you can't get Gari there. Because where they buy their cassava, others have taken over. So there is no cassava, so they cannot produce Gari. Gari that was 250, now they will tell you it's 700. That's if you can get it. And it's not just about Gari. You also get feed for farm animals like pigs, like goats from that same location. You can't get it. So it goes on and on like that. And if we do not solve these problems, I'm afraid. But people believe this in their hearts. People believe it, but they do not want to express it because they are afraid of political patronage. I tell you that high-class people in society now who believe that we need to talk. But because of what they want to become, of what they are, they can't voice it out. And where fear rules, insecurity prevails.
I'm wondering, Mr. Akinshala, how come we can't get the National Assembly to do that? For God's sake, they are the most diverse group of people in any environment that we can find, at least at the national level. Do you think the National Assembly is positioned to have the kind of conversation that you are proposing, or you think there are some other things that may make that impossible?
I wonder, like you. Like you, I wonder, what would make it impossible is that there is a class configuration of the National Assembly that will not allow these things to happen. There is the absence of ideology. there is the perception, the way most members of the National Assembly view society is different from how you and I view society. They are comfortable mostly in the most with what is happening. They are too far away. They are cocooned from the encumbrances of our dysfunctionalities. They are too far away from the problem. I was coming from Akure. I came by road. We were there for 16 hours between Akure and Abuja. A member of the National Assembly will probably travel with his own family via the airports. So he won't see it. He won't know it. He won't feel it.
Drove for 16 hours.
16 hours between Akure and Abuja last Friday.
Why?
The road. There was some construction going on in Lokoja, and they blocked the road. So those going back to the south and those coming from the south had to pass through one lane. So we're there for 16. I didn't get to Abuja until 12:20 on Friday. So look at the effect on the economy. Look at the effect on health. Look at the effect on your psychology. I rode with 2 young kids, and I could see the pain even in them, the way they react. They were like, wow, are we not going to get to that place? Is it this long? But that you said is 5 hours. We're there. But no member of the National Assembly, only a few of them go through that. Their background, their history, the social formations that produce these ones are not such that will make them think as deep as we have to do what we have to do. In any case, the few of them who dare will either not be allowed to voice their opinions or be marginalized, quote unquote. So it's a tragedy. Sometimes people see it as something to laugh about, but it's a real tragedy. And this assembly, this National Assembly, qualifies as the most retrogressive, and I dare say, of all. That individuals here and there with sparks of progressivism, but on the whole, it's a sad average.
If the National Assembly then cannot solve these pertinent issues, you begin to wonder, how can we also retool or recalibrate the National Assembly? But let's take a look at Nigerian News Direct, because we have some other papers for you this morning, which leads with something health-related. Federal government suspend 396 billion naira on COVID-19 vaccination. That's how News Direct leads this morning. And that statement is credited to the finance minister. And there's a statement, interestingly, from the Senate president saying how Nigeria can successfully vaccinate its over 200 million population. So that one is there for you, pages 2 and 21 of the paper. But I'd like you to respond, or at least to hear your thoughts on this one. Alleged Lekki killings not verified. That one is on top of the nameplate. And that statement is credited to U.S. Department of State. You may have seen that report that, caught a lot of attention yesterday. And we've had different interpretations, even though the text of the report is right there for everyone to see. But what do you make of this alleged Lekki killings not verified?
I'm a little bit taken back. I think not verified is not to say that they do not exist. I don't know, but I would have loved the U.S. agency to do much more than saying not verified or verified. In any case, it is not the duty of the U.S. to tell us what is verified or not verified, really. It's the duty of our government, it's the duty of our institutions, it's the duty of our system, it's the duty of investigative journalism. And I've seen a lot of that. I've seen people talk to people who lost their lives, who lost their limbs. And I think we must not just dismiss this fact on the platter of political reality. We must go deep into this. Once people feel that they are not fairly treated, it plants discord in them, it plants hatred in them. And this germinates. It comes out some other day. If you have lost life and limbs, why not let us close this chapter of it by discussing, by agree that, okay, lives were lost. We don't know who killed who, but lives were lost. So what do? Let there be foreclosure and let us move on. But we've been on it. Nobody was killed. Somebody was killed. Bring pictures. Journalists have come out with pictures, with videos. You say they are fake pictures and fake videos. Produce alternative pictures and videos. There was a CCTV there on that day. Where is it? Let it be public. Then we can move on. But we should never allow what happened then to happen again. The right to openly protest should never, never be a subject of debate. What government should do is to protect the protesters and prevent those who want to infiltrate. I saw a lot of infiltration. I saw a lot of infiltration in that protest. Here in Abuja, I saw videos that were not controverted. In Lagos, we saw videos, we saw individuals who were loaded in buses and they moved into the streets with machetes. What have we done about those things?
Interestingly,
When society papers over such developments, they will regenerate, they will recreate. Others will feel it's okay to do it. So the next protest, somebody comes with his submachine gun.
Oh dear.
And they say nobody dies. And we pretend and move on.
I mean, going through that report, that 47-page report, you see that also in it. The report did say that security agencies, in fact, security forces fired at protesters at the Lekki toll gate. So it's right there in the report. It talks about some of the shortcomings of government, but it would seem that part was the one taken by those who seem to believe that no killing happened. But do you think it's even right to begin to take this report on board when we have a judicial panel of inquiry still looking at the issues? And in fact, the timeline has been extended by another 3 months, which means they have not come to any closure. So is it right to take this report, hook, line, and sinker?
I just said that the U.S. has no business making that decision for us. That conclusion is not theirs to make. You see, they could write that report, but it's not for us. What is for us is what are the institutional mechanisms we've put in place to get to the root of it. Let's exhaust this. Whose report should we believe? Yes, they have all the technology, but you see, he who feels it knows it. If you say shots were fired, were these shots blanks, as alleged? Were they live bullets? If they were targeted at people, did they hit? Some said, yes, we were hit. And these are pictures. Some said, no, we're not hit. So we should just take the U.S. report as a report and continue with investigations. And with time, we'll get to the root. But my own understanding is it should not be our or we against them thing. We are all in this thing together. We should not see the protesters as enemies. We should also not see government as an enemy. Or else, those who want this society to be ruptured will always build into it, will always infiltrate at every turn and twist. For instance, I say this, and I told somebody, I said, the curfew had not taken effect when the military intervened. Nobody is talking about that. Nobody. The military intervened quite too early. And the intervention triggered the outcome. Did we exhaust all possible options? But we move.
Yes, indeed we do. Daily Independent is next, and the stories are there. Nigeria may not regain what it lost. Beg your pardon. Naira may not regain what it lost, ascribed to analysts. First question on my mind is, has the Naira ever regained what it lost?
It has ever happened. No currency. You see, you can regain the value in terms of paper value, but the value in terms of what it could purchase can never be regained. And I want to take your first reading of it. Nigeria may not regain what it lost. So either way, Naira may not regain. This is quite true.
Well, subscribers
sadly, Nigeria also will not regain what it has lost.
Yeah. The next one, the sub-headline, another headline there, says subscribers face endless hurdles to retrieve SIM cards. Well, we've talked about this over and over again, and it would seem like the hurdles are not going anywhere. Let's leave that to the authorities to do the needful. But right above the nameplate is this one. We know Nigerians working with Boko Haram. That's ascribed to the presidency. The question then is, so what are we waiting for? I don't know. What do you make of that?
I think we should just, that's a laughable submission. Your job is to fish these guys out. If you know them and you have not fished them out, that means you're also culpable in this crime. The blood of every person lost is in the hands of the president. I think whoever made that statement needs to, those who employed that person should call him to order. If you know, why not act? Who are you telling? I know where the thief is, but let the thief continue to steal. That's unfair. It's unfair on us. It's unfair even on the government itself. Whoever comes out with that kind of statement is not truly reflect. It's not. I don't know. There's a lot of incompetence around. There's a lot of incompetence around, and that we continue to accept it is baffling.
I think just to bring this again to the fore, the statement that we saw yesterday released by the media aide of the CCT chairman, who was alleged to have beat up a security man at Vanex Plaza in Abuja. I don't know if you saw that statement, and as somebody who has been an aide to a governor, how did it make you feel?
I cringed on the, not really on the competence. You see, goofery can happen. I mean, incompetence in terms of the use of language is allowed. Sadly so around here. But in terms of the content and the character of what was put forward, there was ethnic profiling, there was isolation for attack. It was so deliberate in its manipulation that it will only take one insane person to lash onto it and cause a crisis of monumental proportion. But that's how far we have degenerated. Elsewhere, that young man and his principal will be out of office by now.
And still, what we seem we're getting is silence, because we don't even know who to address the complaints to.
Because that has always happened. Such level of disdain for what the society would do, such level of impunity has become part of us. So it happens, and nobody bats an eyelid. It happens and nobody cares. It will happen tomorrow. It will happen next day. And some guys will come on the pages of the newspaper, on social media, and justify it, that you see, he did what did he say?
So far so good. The headlines have been pretty depressing, but I don't know whether it's our own analysis of it. But is there anything that gives you a spark of hope? That, you see it and say, there's something we can still latch onto. Perhaps if we build on this, we could be making our path to progress.
What gives me some, no matter how sincere it is, of hope is the fact that people out there who still feel that we can get out of it, who are still working to get us out of it. I mean, they do not belong to high offices. They are not necessarily in the major parties, but they are thinking, they are talking on platforms, discussing ways out, and offering their suggestions to those who care. If we still have such people, then that small speck of hope is still there. We are here today. I surely don't have any business waking up and rushing to this place. But I feel so compelled that, look, that I feel differently about some of these things. I know you feel differently. 1,001 of us feel so differently. But we should not sit down in our corners of the world. We should voice out what we think should be done right. And if anybody wants to rewrite our history, we should go back. This is what we have done in the past. Some of these recommendations, people have made them years ago. So it's those who ought to act that have refused to act. But that they have refused to act in the past will not stop us from making those recommendations. It will be like that turntable that is stuck. We'll continue to, because we are stuck. So we'll continue to repeat these suggestions, these recommendations, that until and unless we sit down, reconfigure our constitution, reconfigure our leviathan, rebuild our confidence in this country, we'll be tottering on the precipice. We'll have stunted development, our growth will be arrested, and our children will be beneficiaries of a legacy that is unfavorable.
Well, we sincerely hope that would certainly not be the case. Yeah. We have to thank you for, making it down here this morning. Mr. Eni Akinshola is a former former CPS as the Chief Press Secretary, so former governor in Ondo State, and he's been reviewing our papers with us this morning. Well, that's it for this segment. We will be bringing you something more interesting as well, even more interesting if you enjoyed this one, in just a moment, so please don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, continuing our conversation about the planned strike of the National Association of Resident Doctors is today. Today is the day where they say they were going to down tools. They did put up a communique after their meeting. But we do have Professor Ken Ozoilo joining us this morning. He is a national president, Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, you must have seen the communique issued by NARD. Part of that communique, in fact, let me even read section 13, the point 13 of that communique, which says, the NEC unanimously demanded for the sack of the registrar of MDCN, that's the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, for failure to demonstrate competence in the handling of the central placement of house officers. This will give room for smooth implementation of the central placement of house officers without further delays. So they're clearly not happy with the MDCN. What's going on with this?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me once more. I want to say that once again we found ourselves in the unenviable and unfortunate situation where there's a looming strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors. It's truly unfortunate because this is something that is wholly avoidable and, entirely preventable. Now, to understand that aspect of the demand of the residents, I think we need to look back at the origin of the idea that the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria should take over the placement of house officers, all right? Because this will give us a perspective. At a point in time, it was very difficult for house officers having completed their training and having been licensed provisionally by the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria to secure placement for housemanship. And at that point in time, it was thought that, okay, since the Medical and Dental Council does their licensure as doctors, they should be able to provide placements. And that if this were centrally coordinated, the myriad of problems from different hospitals will be eliminated. Okay, so this is the background to now find ourselves at this point where the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria itself, it's introducing the obstacle that is making it impossible for this process to take off smoothly. I think is truly unfortunate. I'm more concerned about the council itself, and I think that the solution to this problem is to be found with the council. And I think the council needs to exhibit some degree of pragmatism, all right? They were brought in to solve a problem. They cannot constitute a problem themselves.
So, Prof, pardon me if I misunderstood you or misunderstand you. Are you indicting the council in the handling of this matter?
I think there's a lot of failure on the part of the council. I've interacted with many of the stakeholders and many of the dramatis personae. We have had interactions with chief medical directors across the country, and as well as residents across the country. We've had interactions with the house officers across the country. It is, we've also reached out to the Medical and Dental Council. And I think at this point, the solution lies squarely with the Medical and Dental Council.
Oh, okay. We'll go to break, but we'll come back and shed some more light on this matter so that you can help a lot of people understand what really is going on, and then eventually proper solutions to ensure that the sector runs smoothly. Nobody wants any further destruction, especially coming from where we are. COVID hits the economy. We're back in a moment. Stay with us. All right. right, welcome back to the program. So, Prof, this disagreement that your association is having with the Dental Council, the meetings, there's been several meetings, I reckon. So what kind of conversation came up from that meeting? Was there any agreement? Because it does appear as though there's still huge disagreement over who should be doing what between MD Khan and your association.
Okay, I want to just clarify a few points. You know, in the structure of the health manpower from the doctor's side, you know, at the lowest of the ladder, you have the house officers, you know, then the resident doctors, and then the consultants. You know, the issue at stake is between the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria, as it were, and not really the medical and dental consultants. You know, we've been trying to mediate. You know, our association has been trying to play a conciliatory role. And in the process of doing that, we've been engaging with both the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, that's the group that is calling the strike, as well as the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. You know, and like I said, at the very beginning of this was the need to provide placement for house officers. You understand? Initially, this was done by each training institution, each hospital, like each teaching hospital. You know, each hospital would employ its own house officers and pay them. All right. Now, from my engagements, I understand that the Medical and Dental Council, which is responsible for licensing the doctors, is saying that some of the hospitals have exceeded the quotas allocated to them by the council. And because of that, they will not be able to honor the list of house officers emanating from those hospitals. Now, upon interaction with the chief medical directors, you know, they have listed the problems emanating from their own sides too. But the reality on ground is that right now we're not talking about placement. House officers who have been employed have been working for upwards of 3 months, and many of them, majority of them, have not been paid. So this is not an issue of looking for placement for them. This is an issue of paying people who have been working. And what moral justification we have to continue to insist that people who are working should not be paid. So this is the problem, and I'm saying that I expect the Medical and Dental Council to be more pragmatic in the sense that, you know, these are doctors that are already working. They have been placed. They have already, begun to work, and they've been earning their salaries up to now. So the process of moving the placement from the hospital to the council should not constitute a further problem. Yeah. Okay, I think that they would need to revise their position. Okay, it might be necessary to give a period of a moratorium. Okay, such that the people that are currently doing house job will receive their emoluments seamlessly to the end of their housemanship, which is just a period of 12 months anyway, while the process of recruiting new ones and placing them across the country is further fine-tuned, as it were. So yes, I think that the council has a lot to do. By council, I mean Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria.
Well, this doesn't paint a very good picture, because, I mean, you are the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, and then the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria are supposed to be the supervisory body to ensure that they whip everybody in line, to ensure the standard, the ethics of the profession is upheld to the highest of the standards. So if those who they're supposed to be, quote unquote, supervising are up in arms against them, doesn't that then send very worrying signals in the industry that this might just have a lot more damage than we can even see right now?
I think it does, absolutely. I think it does, but I think there's a need to put things in perspective, okay? Because relating with the regulators, that's the Medical and Dental Council, my understanding of their position has been that there's this tendency for the training institutions, that's the hospitals now, to employ more house officers than they are accredited to engage. Okay, and if that be the case, council does not want to recognize the excess numbers over and above what has been approved for employment. Okay, but relating also with the chief medical directors, this is the point I'm making. Relating with the chief medical directors, they have very, very genuine reasons why they are, forced, as it were, into the corner they are. For instance, I'll give you an example. A training institution like the University of Jos, where I am, has a quota to produce about 150 medical graduates per year. Now, if the sister training hospital, that's the teaching hospital, is not able to absorb more than half of that, where do you send the remaining? And so this is why we're saying that the problems are real. And then if in order for the teaching hospitals to expand their capacity, their accreditation status, there are some concrete problems they may not be able to overcome in the short run. Okay? And so the problems are genuine on both sides. But I think the important thing is for both parties to realize that this arrangement came about as a result of the need to solve a problem. And that problem was the fact that there were thousands, hundreds and thousands of junior doctors, house officers who were roaming the streets without any place to do their housemanship. And so the pragmatic thing to do now is to make it possible for them to do that. And then it is even more important than those who are already employed have to be paid their emoluments. It's as simple as that. So I think that the MD, Medical and Dental Council, needs to soft pedal and allow the people that are currently working to, exit before any new enforcements are made. It's very important. This is what needs to be done, and not everybody digging into their positions and forgetting that this was a solution, as it were, that everybody agreed to a long time ago.
Ultimately, Prof, it's about the people. And perhaps we seem to be losing sight of that, just as you said, when everyone seems to be holding on to their horses and no one seems to be willing to bat an eyelid. Now, a strike has been declared, and according to what we have in the news and all, the likelihood is that the strike should begin today. Now, in the light of that, what do you see happening? Clearly, it would seem like the MDCN isn't working as much as they want to, according to their website, with the NMA, which is, part of your own, parent body, so to speak. So what do you expect to happen now, especially from the angle of the MDCN? Because clearly, the position of the NARD is known. What should the MDCN do now? Because ultimately, as we said, this is about the people.
Thank you very much. Like I said at the outset, I think it's very unfortunate that the situation has been allowed to degenerate to this level. The strike is almost certain. The strike is also most avoidable and most preventable. At the end of the day, a solution is going to be found. There's going to be negotiations and discussions, and a compromise will be arrived at. It's unfortunate that we're not able to, work towards that compromise without the damage that will be inflicted by the strike, if it goes ahead. And this is one of the problems that we have, as doctors and as groups in this country, because the government and its agencies, tend to box you into a position where you seem unable to achieve anything without a crisis. This is most unfortunate. Okay, and this is a recurrent decimal. The ASU issue was just sorted out, after a very long and protracted, and if you ask me, unnecessary strike. Okay, last year it was the same with NARD. This year, here we are again. There's this impression that if there's no crisis, the government will not listen to you. And it's most unfortunate because at the end of the day, prices are paid, and these prices are paid in terms of human lives. Okay, and this is most unacceptable. And therefore, government needs to do more. I keep emphasizing government and its agencies. Okay, yes, the strike is going to go on. The damage is going to be done. It is unfortunate because there's a limit to the amount of skeletal services that the consultants will be able to provide. The bulk of the workforce of the teaching hospitals across the country is constituted by the National Association of Resident Doctors. Okay, and so everything ought to have been done ideally to prevent this kind of situation arising. Okay, I want to restate my position. That at the end of the day, there's going to be dialogue. At the end of the day, there's going to be dialogue, and there's going to be compromise, and there's going to be shifting on ground. And I think at this point in time, the council, the Medical and Dental Council, has the solution to this problem entirely. If you look at the demands of the resident doctors, everything is genuine. Everything is genuine. It's not just about the house officers. The house officers issue is just one issue. A lot of it has to do with the promises made by government during the first wave of this COVID-19.
Well, Prof,
look at the hazard allowance of the doctors, even the house officers.
Right.
Look at today we're talking about brain drain. These people are leaving because the country is not able to treat them better. And yet, those that are still behind, you leave them in a situation where they are forced to take these kind of actions in order to be heard. It is most unfortunate.
Well, Prof, speaking of their demands, I'm looking at that communique that was put out. One of the demands is the NEC unanimously demanded for the sack of the registrar of MDCN for failure to demonstrate competence in the handling of the central placement of house officers. Do you think that will work? Is that taking it too far, or is perhaps just right?
I must state that I have not been able to discuss with the registrar one-on-one. I've tried to reach out to him. I've not been able to get across to him. But I've been able to reach other members of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. And I think the problem, I wouldn't want a situation where it is personalized to the registrar, because if he's sacked and council maintains his position, then we've not achieved anything. And that's why I choose my words carefully. The problem and the solution are to be found in the council. Thank you.
This looks like it's going to be a long day, weeks, months, hopefully not, for consultants and other senior doctors. So for you, right where you are, has that strike begun? What is the plan? Because I imagine that the patient volume will not drop. I mean, they're not going on strike. Sickness does not go on strike. So what is the plan really? And how long a day or weeks will this be for you?
Well, it's indeed going to be a long day, From information reaching us, it has kicked off. Prior to this, we've already switched into the crisis mode. We've been holding meetings, with the management of the different hospitals to try to develop mitigation measures and stopgap measures. And part of that is for the hospital to change, its mode of operation. It will not be possible to provide the full complement of services that we're used to. Obviously, all non-critical patients will have to be, let go and asked to seek alternative places of help. Yes, we will continue to attend to emergencies and critical patients who cannot be discharged. But like I was saying, the onus of this now falls squarely. The burden of this falls squarely on the consultants. Those are members of my association, who by their hierarchy in the organogram have to stay back and provide these skeletal services. We do hope that it is a brief strike. We do hope that government sits up, the relevant agencies and all the people involved. We do hope they sit up and give this crisis the urgent attention that it deserves. And we do hope that it will be quickly resolved. But we will be reviewing our own modus operandi as the days go by. If the strike becomes protracted, then obviously it's going to take a heavier toll because, like I said, the bulk of the workforce of the, training institutions falls squarely on the resident doctors. Okay, the consultants are far fewer in number and will not be in a position to take over completely the job schedule of the resident doctors. So we do hope for a quick resolution.
Well, clearly that means that the country will feel the pinch if and when they do embark on that strike. But the list in that communique, almost everything there is very important as they listed. But given benefits of hindsight, so from your wealth of experience, looking through that communique, when you say you do hope that it will not be long drawn, what kind of issues do you think that if they are addressed, there just might be light at the end of the tunnel in terms of them suspending or calling off the strike? Because, I mean, assuming they don't attend to all of them.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, going through the list, almost every demand there is genuine. Almost every demand there is germane, because this thing did not start today. However, if you look carefully at it, you will see that there are immediate and, remote causes. And the most immediate one has to do with the remuneration of these house officers. It's most embarrassing for those of us in the medical profession because the house officer is the lowest in the rung. These are people that have just emerged from their schooling. Some of them have not been paid. Some of them have no other means of support, and they are the most junior. They are the ones that do not have any savings. They don't have any reserves, as it were. So to have the most vulnerable, the most feeble in the rung, being visited with this degree of hardship is embarrassing for everybody and it's most heart-wrenching. Okay, so I think that's one of the most immediate causes. As soon as that is resolved, we might be a bit closer. Of course, again, government made several promises during the heydays of, during the early days of COVID-19, especially to do with the hazard allowance. Okay, for goodness sake, the hazard allowance of these doctors, some of whom have died after contracting COVID, is 5,000 naira per month. Government made a commitment on its own, voluntarily, without prompting, and said, okay, look, we're going to increase this hazard allowance. We're going to pay you so much for the first 3 months. In another 3 months, we'll extend it. And after that, there will be a holistic review of not just the hazard allowance, but the emoluments. Because look, let's face it, what's driving people out of this country, bottom line, is pay. You understand? And government makes this commitment on its own and then goes to sleep shortly afterwards. Okay? So I think that some of those things will have to be addressed. Of course, some of them, like the death in service, the benefits of the death in service, with the new pension reforms and all that, it shouldn't be a big problem to, get the right people to do the right thing, okay? And then, get the whole issues resolved. Of course, other issues can, still be subject to discussions and all that. I'm aware that even the Medical Residency Training Act, which is another bone of contention here, is something that has been passed by the National Assembly, accented by the president, and nearly 2 years on, we're still quarreling with its implementation. You understand? So a lot of these things it's not rocket science. It's not rocket science. And these are commitments already made by government that should be honored.
Prof, I've looked through some other bodies, even sports bodies globally, and there seems to be some change. They're changing the leadership, the management of those bodies, bringing in other ideas to ensure things run smoothly. And I do remember, I think 2018 or thereabout, the NMA was up in arms against governments, giving them ultimatum here and there, asking them to reconstitute the board of the MDCN. And now MDCN is in the thick of this challenge. Do you think we should leave the leadership and management of the healthcare sector to professionals in that field alone, or should we change something, because if today is Jehesu, tomorrow who knows what. How should we approach this?
Okay, touch something that is very important and topical. There has been that argument, and I think without reservation, yes, there's a need for change, in different sectors, and different sectors have witnessed it. But one thing I want you to look at, and this is my personal analysis of the situation, there's a huge difference between the operations of public health services compared to private health services. The public sector, and this is not restricted to health, the public health brings along with itself a lot of baggages. There's a lot of inefficiency, there's a lot of waste, there's a lot of, I don't know how else to put it, that you don't find in the private sector. And so what I would like to see is greater private sector engagement. I do not think that it will matter significantly who is at the helm of affairs, insofar as they have to continue working with the same systems. But you will agree with me, and coming from your private sector background too, that the private sector has a more business-like approach to issues compared to the public sector. So I think that this is the discussion we should be having. I've challenged a number of government officials when we talk about issues to do with salary. If you engage any government officials, those involved in this thing, once you call a degree, they reel off the salary. Once you mention a grade level, they reel it off. And what this does is that it does not encourage that individual extra effort. Okay, because it's not remunerated. But in the private sector, your value to the organization is directly proportional to the amount of, results that you're able to produce. We don't have that in the public sector. And if you ask me, I think that, what we should be looking at is how government can greater reduce its participation in the business of health and other businesses by encouraging and enhancing greater private sector participation, so that you can bring in a lot of the private sector efficiencies, and competencies, okay, and even funds, because anytime you sit with governments, it's always issue of funds, but it does not really have to be that way. If you incentivize private sector participation, they'll bring in their own funds and yet produce better results, per amount of capital involved. So as far as I'm concerned, this is the direction we should be looking at.
Well, Prof, if you'll allow me to use a word that you used earlier, it is unfortunate that that's the kind of thing that we can say about the public sector, being that they're human beings, just like the people in the private sector. But there was something you said the other time about the patients having to seek alternative medical service. That's a little curious to me. I'm using your words verbatim because the same MDCN regulates the activities of alternative medicine. So I'm wondering how that is going to play out.
Okay, I'll plead with you. Okay, I'll plead with you. What I meant was alternative places. Okay, I do not want to dabble into the issue of alternative medicine. Okay, so let's get that right. And by that, what I meant is, because the strike is only going to affect public hospitals, as you well know. So the private hospitals will still be open and available, but we know the challenge there is largely to do with money. Okay, because most of them are more expensive than the government places, But right now, that is the only backdrop that we have to take the slack from this crisis.
Now, it's interesting. You cited this earlier, so let me just play on it a little. From time to time, we have had cases where the NERD has had to call its members out on strike because of one thing from the government or the one thing, from the Federal Ministry of Health and here and there and everywhere. And as you said, agreements that are broken and all. So on the one hand, sometimes it's the federal government, the Federal Ministry of Health. Now it's the MDCN, and sometimes it's even MDCAN. I'm wondering, just a question here in my head. Do you think that sometimes the NARD is a little overboard?
I want to first of all quickly dissociate my association from the genesis of any crisis. I want to say that largely over time, the medical and dental consultants have been, equally affected as adversely, by most of the issues raised by the NARD. If you read the fine lines in those in the communique, you will see that a lot of what we now call the COVID-19 era promises of the federal government is not only for resident doctors, it's for everybody. And it's not even only for doctors. It was a promise made to the health sector. Okay, so I want to quickly, put that right. Most of the things that affect residents also affect consultants. Okay, but because of the organogram, as I've been saying, because of the structure of the workforce, the consultant takes ultimate responsibility for the care of the patient.
All right, Prof.
Hard pressed to find themselves in a position where they will have to, leave the patients unattended or down to. So what we do is to provide that safety net, especially for emergencies. Okay, to be able so that the patient is not entirely left without any hope.
All right, then, Professor Ken Ozolu, President of MDCAN, thank you for talking to us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's quickly bring in Dr. Oyelawa. Well, he's the president of NARD. He joins us on the line this morning to give us an update. They did say they were going to embark on strike. Good morning, Dr. Oyelawa. So tell us, are you on strike now?
Good morning. Good morning, Chamberlain. The strike commenced 8 a.m. this morning, and we enjoy all resident doctors to start the strike immediately.
I thought you had a meeting with the Minister of Labor. Didn't that solve anything?
We had a meeting with the Minister of Labor from 4 p.m. till about 12 a.m. this morning, and we had the same memorandum of understanding written. But as it stands, we have been used to memorandum of understandings for over a decade now, and we insist that implementation of what we wrote on a strike notice should be implemented immediately.
The benefits of hindsight, saying, since they've called us for a meeting, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. If it doesn't go well within a certain time, then we down tools.
We have stepped down tools 8 a.m. this morning, and we ensure all resident doctors will comply. My senior colleague, the MDCAN chairman, knows that we're not doing this just for residents. We are doing this for all health workers. Nigerians and the government needs to be more responsible for what.
But we will be back in just a moment. All right, so clearly a lot is going on in the health sector in Nigeria. Well, today, the 1st of April, and it's not April Fool, the National Association of Resident Doctors say they have begun their strike by 8 a.m. today. Well, yes, they did have a meeting with the Ministry of Labor, and so they're trying to sort certain things out. You'd have thought that, who knows, there might be light at the end of the tunnel, rightly so, but that's not the case. The hope is dashed. The resident doctors are putting their foot down, saying they will proceed on the strike. There are several demands that they did put out, one of which is that they are demanding the sack of the registrar of the Medical and Dental Council of Nigeria. They talked about remuneration for some of the resident doctors, particularly that of the Abia State University of ABSUTH, basically, the teaching hospital. And we did reach out to the Commissioner for Health in Abia State, but he declined being on the program. So that won't happen today, at least. So who knows, subsequently, it may happen. But we're trying to get hold of the General Secretary of ARD, hopefully, should join us soon to look through some of these demands. And so who knows, it's the health sector challenges again today.
Especially when you look at their demands.
Yeah.
I don't want to say their demands, their situation. 21 months salary, that's how much they're being owed. And you wonder, they're 12 months in a year, right? So that's almost 2 years. For 2 years or thereabouts, these doctors have not been paid their salaries. And these are people that are literally responsible for saving lives.
When I heard 2 years, I thought, is that possible? But let's get across to Dr. Arundun Nnamdi. He is the General Secretary, Association of Resident Doctors for ABSUTH. He joins us on the line this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us. Well,
Good morning, Chairman.
Yeah, so just tell us, one of the demands was about remuneration for ABSUTH. What is the true picture?
As we speak, we are currently being owed 20 months salary arrears. And the problem we have is not just the 20 months, but the way in which it's being paid. For instance, in May, on 9th December 2020, we received 2 months salary arrears. The salary arrears was meant for May and June 2019. The government skipped the whole of 2019 and now went over to July and August 2020. Then the next salary that was paid came with another different narration for January 2021. So the way the salaries are being paid, excuse me, the way the salaries are being paid is very confusing. And aside salaries, poor working conditions, low morale, lack of accreditation, and all that.
But some time ago that you had meetings with the governor.
Yes.
Was that right? What happened? What was the outcome of the meeting?
It was actually a courtesy visit by the president of NMA, Professor Innocent Oja, to the governor, telling him about the plight of her members. The governor there promised to pay ABSUTH's workers 6 to 9 months and fix the roads leading to the hospital within 6 to 9 months. Ever since then, we've just received, since November 2020, when the president of NMA came, till now, we've just received 3 months salary arrears. As a matter of fact, as of the time the professor came, we were being owed 17 months. Now it's 20, meaning nothing is being done about it.
I'm wondering, Dr. Nnamdi,
Yes.
I want to believe that your association, are having consultations with the state government. Is that correct?
I didn't get you.
I said, is your association talking with the state government at any level?
We've met with the government at all levels. We've met with the Commissioner for Finance, we've met with the Commissioner for Health, we've met with the Head of Service, we've met with the Governor. And the promises we've signed several agreements. They've always been telling us, we know we are owing you, calm down, you will receive your emolument. But they are dealing with human beings who have families, who can't even pay. Imagine it, okay, we lost a colleague in January and we are contributing just for the funeral. The family can't even plan for his funeral. We just opened the GoFundMe account just about 1 week ago. Schools no longer accept doctors. When just before I entered medical school, I thought being a doctor was a very wonderful profession, but from what I'm seeing, I'm surprised.
What would you say that the state government has told you that's remotely responsible for why they have not been able to pay you for almost 2 years?
Well, they have been making promises like, go in 2 days, you receive alerts. 2 days becomes 2 weeks. 2 weeks becomes 2 months. Nothing comes. We've always been waiting. We've always been hoping. We want to work. We are used to working. But the issue is that the government doesn't really want to tell us the truth. They don't care. They keep accusing us that we don't generate enough funds. Ideally, running a government hospital is not meant to be a revenue-generating agency. Consultation fee of 350 naira cannot be enough to pay professors, to pay doctors, to pay every other hospital staff. We don't only render healthcare services. We teach, we conduct research and all that. So I wonder how the government expects us to generate money. Where do we generate that from? Is it the 350 naira consultation fee that you pay in seeing, assuming you're meant to see 12 doctors, the 350 naira covers you from seeing the house officer to the professor in the hospital.
So when you say that the government telling the truth, they're just saying we're not generating enough revenue, what for you is the truth?
Well, it is the job of government, it is part of government's corporate social responsibility to give health care to the citizenry. Not only health care, education, good roads, pipe-borne water, and all that. So for government to now say we are meant to generate funds, we are not a bank, for crying out loud. If we were even a bank, it would have been a different thing altogether. Now, telling us to start generating funds, how? There is no, of the 76 tertiary health institutions in Nigeria, even as big as UCH Ibadan is, UNTH and Soka is, they don't generate enough to pay their salaries. How come ABSUT is being expected to generate enough money to pay itself? It's not possible, it's not feasible, so it means, I don't know, they don't want to pay.
It's a state university, isn't it?
Pardon?
Is it not a state university?
It is a state university teaching hospital.
Was it designed to be a commercial venture? From your own understanding of the setting up of ABSUT, is it a commercially viable setup, or it is a school?
Actually, from the name ABSUT, teaching hospital, medical students who enroll into ABSUT do their clinical training in ABSUT Aba. Now, I don't really know. I'm not part of the management staff, but some revenue come from ABSUT to teaching hospital. I don't know what the sharing formula is, but apart from healthcare delivery, the teaching, the research is also part of the roles of the hospital, and all those functions cannot be performed while still expecting profits.
Okay, so clearly you sound like the government has been saying you guys need to make money, make profits to pay yourselves.
That's how they sound every day.
Oh dear. So when last, just to be clear with the facts, when last did you receive payment?
We received payment January.
And was it for January or for the arrears?
No, they said it was for January this
Okay,
year.
so January 2021.
Keeping the previous 20 months, like I explained earlier on, skipping
8 months in 2019, skipping 10 months in 2020, and then jumping over to 2021.
And even in 2021, you've not received for February and March, am I right?
No, yes, we haven't.
Okay, because, I mean, one of the aides of the governor put out a quote from the governor saying that this December alone, that's December last year, we have earmarked the sum of 1.8 billion naira for the commencement of the offsetting of arrears of salaries owed to workers in some parastatals, and ABSUT was one of those parastatals. So it seems the government has set aside money. Do you have an idea what is holding that back?
Well, I believe these are all statements that will come to be used in Nigeria. We've gotten used to this kind of statements, and that's what kept us waiting for our salaries up till now.
Dr. Erondo Nnamdi, we do thank you very much indeed for your time this morning, and it's shocking. Well, for some people, they're not really shocked about so many things again. Unfortunately so. I mean, you heard them say that they say they don't generate money, and as such, they can be paid. But we also do see and know that government officials go for, how much we lose, medical tourism.
Oh, billions.
Yesterday, you saw those amounts, those figures. You can imagine what happens if those funds were in Nigeria's healthcare sector. We will be talking about them not generating funds. Who knows? Well, again, part of the challenge the country is grappling with is security. And yes, indeed, there were several meetings yesterday, even previously, about what needs to be done about security. Well, we'll go to Abu Adams, former Assistant Director for Internal Security. He joins us this morning. Well, good morning, and thank you for joining us again today on the program. Well, one of the recent occurrences, Ebonyi State is grappling with one of such. Anambra, 3 officers killed during a rally. The elections are coming up this year. And so you just ask yourself, this seemingly free-for-all kind of scenario playing out in different parts of the country. But we do have fine gentlemen and officers, security agencies who are out there. And so it does appear as though what they're doing is being overshadowed by some of this. But you have several other people who say, well, they still need to do far much more than is being done. What is your reading of how we're dealing with the challenges we're faced with?
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. The challenges we are facing today, like we have said before, is something that started several years back. And if you look at the whole of the country, actually everywhere, there are security challenges. We talked about Ebonyi, we talked about Anambra yesterday, and the Northeast, we already know what's happening there. We know what's happening in the Northwest, North Central, it's not possible, even the Southwest. I think it is because we did not do what we were supposed to do in the past, over the years, decades, and today is the result that we are witnessing. And you will agree with me that in view of inadequate resources available to defense forces and security agencies, the situation seems to be overwhelming, as it were, because while they are attending to one, the other one will be manifesting somewhere. And so that is why it seems they are not doing what they are supposed to do. I think for those of us that are in the system and that are following them, we know that they are not leaving any space.
If I could jump in right there, pardon me to jump in. When you say inadequate resources, not too sure of the context, because you have several people who think that it's not just about allocation of those resources. It's about the directives being given from certain quarters, and that we can actually achieve a lot with the resources that we do have at the moment. So tell us, what would you consider as, for want of words, low-hanging fruits now? Because we know that the service chiefs, several people have said, look, you need to give them time. We don't know how much time. So if you were to categorize certain things as low-hanging fruits that can be approached or measures taken to stem the tide, at least.
Okay, I think the new service chiefs, like everybody has said, they have just come. They need to review policies. They need to review deployments. They need to review logistics deployments and so on and so forth. So seeing immediate results in view of expanding threats may be very difficult at this stage. If you take the Southeast, for instance, you look at what the Eastern Security Network is doing, the level of attack on the police, the army, and so on is enormous for them. And so what I really mean is that we will still need to continue to optimally use resources and personnel available to them until they are able to receive consignments of expected armaments and also the results of their new strategies. I'm sure in no distant future we'll see that. But I want to add sincerely that the level to which insecurity has come, it is something that all of us, whether we like it or not, in one way or the other, the citizenry must be involved at this stage. If you see, don't forget that while you have the bandits on one side, you have the terrorists on one side, you have the ritualists on one side, you also have kidnappers on one side, and several, of course, communal agitations here and there. You can see that it's almost overwhelming.
Mr. Adams, just one moment. If you don't mind me butting in, you said just now that everyone should, put their hands on deck. Sounds fantastic, yes. But how? Just as you said, just now talking about, the communal clashes. It's been reported on the front page of the dailies this morning that more than 100 people died from communal clashes and in Akwa Ibom, and that's Akwa Ibom, south. What is it that the people ought to do that they have not done? Many times, some of the reports that we have heard, you have headed internal security at the DSS before, so you would know. Many times, people have said that when they give information, up there in the north, when they give information to security agencies, their lives, their communities are in jeopardy. So what else can the people do when they are not sure that they will be protected?
Thank you very much. I think at the level to which we have come, I've said in several places that communities should organize themselves into active, the word active vigilante, to support the security agencies in this operation. I give you a typical example. If you take the Southwest, we set up Amotekun for purposes of this insecurity. How much of intelligence or information, let me use the wrong word, information, have the citizenry be given to Amotekun in conjunction with the police, even the army, to carry out necessary operations. You see, another major challenge I think that this country has is that virtually everybody has lost confidence in the nation called Nigeria as a result of, injustices that people felt they have gone through over the years. I think these are the things that does not really give Nigerians morale. And I want to believe that the political leaders should get up at this stage and then begin to talk to the citizenry about a new Nigeria and acting in that context. If you look at one video of one incident yesterday, these are some of the things that are discouraging Nigerians. People believing that some people are bigger than the other and things like that. I think we should organize ourselves and believe that we will not allow this challenge to go. If policemen, soldiers are being attacked And then what is the confidence of the average citizen? This is what I think all of us will rise up, put the previous challenges that we have gone through behind us, so that the current situation does not consume us. And as you know, like we have said before, is our inadequate response to security threat over the years. I think I did mention, if not on this forum, that in one of my, in 2012, when I was a lead speaker at the annual conference of International Institute of Professional Security in Abuja, this Zamfara has started then, and we tried to tell authorities what should be done at that time for us to ameliorate the situation. But all those things were not done. And today, we now know where we are with the situation. So we must put the challenges of, you see, people that say, if I give information to the police, they will go and expose me. Look, I've told people, look for the hierarchy. I mean, the people at that level. Will you give information to an assistant commissioner of police? He will compromise it, or an area commander.
Know that it's not easy to access those gentlemen you just referenced at the moment. So everybody cannot be looking for the Commissioner of Police or the ACP. That's why there's rank and file. So they should get it working such that it makes a lot of people's job easier. But we get the perspective and the point of view that you're putting across, Mr. Abu Andrew, former Assistant Director, Internal Security with the SSS. It's time to take a look at some of the feedback coming through from you all. Markwe, let's have you take the first one.
Thank you, Chamberlain. We have this one from Professor Inakina, who is talking about insecurity and breaking the cycle. He says, we can't continue to go in circles trying to fix security. We must use technology to circumvent these wastrel bandits and to police the vast expanse of borderlines in the north. It's time to have a definite plan to confront and expose their perceived sponsors.
His message is next, talking about the health sector. Management and leadership of the healthcare sector should not be left entirely to healthcare professionals. We need specialists, healthcare administrators, and managers.
All right. Well, Henry's tweeting about the resident doctor strike, saying the perceived disorder in the medical industry is not isolated. It reflects the frustrating challenges of governance in the country. The regulator, regulated, and industry owner need to come back to the table. Nigeria has never paid attention to the health sector, he says.
Wow. Abdul Qadir Nasiri, I believe that's the next one there, says, this probably isn't the best time for doctors to go on strike. But when is the best time? The guilt was right. We must address our challenges concurrently: infrastructure, healthcare, education, and other key areas. I might as well just add this one as well. Dr. Kashmir Ifeanyi says, Nigerian doctors are inexcusably the cause of the rot and duplicitous politics that have destroyed the Nigeria health sector. MDs, CMDs, FMOH, FMLP, OHSCF, etc. are all doctors. NARD, students always hold on the country to ransom.
Just in case you're wondering, that's talking about the Federal Ministry of Health and Federal Ministry of Labor and Productivity. Interestingly, they're headed by medical doctors. But look at this one now from Comrade Dari, talking about public hospital facilities. He says, until public facilities is imposed for usage of all political actors in Nigeria, the issue of incessant strike by various unions will never end. At this time, when the world is facing health challenges, it is shameful we're talking about doctors going on strike. Well, we've seen your tweets, we've seen your messages, and we're still expecting some responses. I don't think that it is right that the accusations that have come in against the government of Abia State are refusing to pay doctors for over 20 months, jumping or skipping some months and paying some others, and it's still, even this year that they have decided to start paying, is still not up to date. It demands some explanation, and we will certainly be expecting some response from the Abia State government. And also to mention that we've also seen some action, it would seem, around the statement released by the CCT media aid. It would seem that the Minister for Information has summoned that particular aid because we understand that he was seconded to the CCT, but he says that that message was dictated to him and that he composed it under intense pressure. Well, we're hoping to see that, there will also be some further action in that regard, not just movement there, but when we do see them, we certainly will bring them to you as they come up. Thank you for watching this morning. I'm Mark Welgun Yusuf.
Yeah, the Ministry of Information has very high standards,
Yeah.
so I don't think they would allow that message just like that.
And there's also the case of the chairman of the CCT as well, but of course, we'll wait. Thank you for joining us as usual. I'm Kayode Okikiolu.
Have a wonderful day and please keep safe. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Yes, indeed. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Uso.